Maplewood came about in 1957.
So 60 years.
Yes. In fact, we just celebrated a 60th anniversary last February. So this is very opportune that on the 60th anniversary, we are now opening a fairly large exhibit at the Bruntrup Farm about the move from 3M to Maplewood, and then also what the effect was upon Maplewood residents. Not so much a history of 3M, but more a history of the 3M Center.
Yeah.
So they'll be opening in July, and that's, of course, with my interest in history, that's the biggest event for me this summer. So all the audience is invited to come out to the farm after July and take a look at our exhibit.
So, and I believe Maplewood's first mayor was Waldo Balde Lubin, and he helped lead the charge because you're right, that St. Paul was going to annex that property, and that's why the people got together and said we want to become Maplewood, and it's got a unusual shape, admittedly, but it was to preserve 3M. Yeah, as part of that, and some of the I believe sewer issues and all related, but it's a very colorful story.
And one of the exhibits that Nicole is working on right now is talking about why did Maplewood wind up with the shape that we've got.
Okay.
So there are several exhibits that the people can see this summer.
Nicole, would you like to give us a sneak preview on some of those things that I had mentioned through Bob, the annexation, but what are some of the things that we'll see at that exhibit?
So one of the exhibits that we're releasing is the why is Maplewood shaped so differently? And we have some historic maps that show the plat maps for who annexed at what point the land that Maplewood now is. And so there's a small exhibit that's going to be presented. We used to have that exhibit, and it's one of our most popular exhibits. And so we're reworking that exhibit. With my history and exhibit design, I'm reworking that exhibit. And then we're going to rearrange some of our other exhibits, show them in a new format. And then we also have the Gloucester Depot exhibit, which has the original potbelly stove from the Gloucester Depot.
Great. Now, there's a website that shows activities, programs, membership information, etc. People are encouraged to become members of the Maplewood Area Historical Society. Would you like to share how that would work?
Some of our membership benefits include a monthly newsletter that comes out where Bob actually writes a historical article. He's a fantastic researcher. I
look so forward to reading those, and every once in a while they might be in the local paper as well in the review. But thank you for preserving these the research that you've done.
You're welcome.
So yes, that is definitely a feature.
And we really appreciate our members, and we like to include them as much as possible. And so we also include information about our events. Both past and present, future events coming up.
Okay.
You want to give them the website name and the Facebook name that
they
can find it?
We are on Facebook, and we're actually quite active on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. We're on Vimeo, and we have a website called MaplewoodHistoricalSociety.org.
Okay.
You can just do a search for us too, and we pop up pretty quickly because we're so active on the internet. But you can find us on Facebook as the Bruntrup Heritage Farm.
And you mentioned the strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years. That's great. And tell us a little bit more about what that vision is, in terms of the expansion and programs.
One of the big concerns I have is the growing trend that organizations have less and less in the way of volunteers.
Yes.
In fact, a recent episode was Oakdale Historical Society had to turn all their assets over to Washington County because they just did not have the volunteers anymore. And I start to see that among other smaller historical societies like ourselves that do not have the benefit of funding from the state or from the county. We're on our own. So part of my vision as president is to be financially self-sustaining and to not depend upon volunteers so much, but more maybe paid staff, to become more professional with our exhibits, that we are a greater interest to the public, and that means hiring professional people like Nicole. So this is all rolled into the master plan of how we will get away from being an all-volunteer, small historical society, relying strictly upon funding from donations and from members, but that we grow. And some of that includes getting more of the arts and cultural programs at the society,
Yes.
at the farm, I should say. People are very interested in coming out to the farm. Maybe only 10% really have an interest in the history of it. The other 90% just love what I call the farm ambiance. So to take advantage of that, we'd like to have art workshops, theater, concerts, entertainment type activities at the farm, so that they can come out and while they're waiting for the performance, they can see our historical exhibits, but that they just enjoy the ambiance. So we truly want to become more like a public asset instead of just a very restricted historical society.
Wonderful.
So the master plan gets into some of these activities that we're working towards.
Good. And the board of directors,
Yes.
do you have a relationship then where it reports to the city council? Or you're independent, if you will, but what is that relationship? I know it's a very good relationship, but how, are you autonomous? How does that work?
We are autonomous. We're a separate 501c3. The connection through the city is probably two aspects. Number one is the city actually owns the land and the buildings.
Yes.
In order for the buildings to be on public land, unfortunately the society didn't own any land when the Bruin troops donated, so we had to turn the buildings to the city. So they are our landlord. We have a long-term lease, so we have to keep them happy.
Yes.
But also with the city commission, the Heritage Preservation Commission, we need to tie in our historic activities.
Yes.
So there is a liaison lady from the city that works with us, and in turn we work with the Heritage Preservation Commission. Also, though, with the adjacent prairie is a great opportunity for us to help support the city efforts on visitors that want to come to the prairie. You come to the prairie, you need a parking space. We have a parking space. If you come to the prairie, you need restrooms. Well, most people need restrooms. We have the restrooms. So
Yes.
we're trying to work with the city that we are complementing them on the adjacent prairie.
Wonderful. Looking ahead 5-10 years down, Bill, what are you hoping to see as the farm continues to grow?
Well, I guess continued programming, like Nicole was saying with the summer camp, I mean, that's a big thing, I think, and that's our future generations. If we can get them involved in the farm, I think that's going to help with our sustainability. So I think if we can get the youth and more younger members involved,
Yep.
I think that's really a key to us continuing on. And we don't want to become stagnant, as Bob and Nicole are very active in this,
Yep.
because if you just have the same thing all the time, people have been there once and they say, "Oh, I've seen that." So we try to keep generating new things that create interest and keep the ball rolling that way. So I think I see in the future that if we can do that, that our membership will grow and our people coming to see our exhibits will come. So that's my vision of the future anyhow. So.
Great. Well, you've got a plan. You've got a lot of talent, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be successful. Nicole, tell us about your path to becoming the executive director at the Maplewood Area Historical Society, and with the strong affiliation now with the Bruntrip Farm. And I know it's a passion. You're part-time. I'm sure there's some weeks it's full-time. I know it is. But you're getting great return on investment. But so I know you have a passion for this. But what were you doing before this?
I definitely do. I have 20 years of experience in the museum field. So I have both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. My master's degree is in museum studies.
Okay.
And so prior to this position, I worked in a number of museums throughout the country. I even had a traveling job where I install large $6 million exhibits into science museums, for instance.
Okay.
And I came to this position because my grandparents had a farm, so I grew up on a farm.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Iowa, actually.
Okay, great.
So
Where in Iowa?
outside of Des Moines, in a small town called Polk City.
Okay.
So my passion and my interest around farming it runs deep, and it runs in the family. And so I was drawn to this position because it's a farmstead.
Yes.
And then when I came out to interview, they did a panel interview with about 13 people.
Whoa.
Not intimidating at all, right?
Okay.
They were all very warm, very welcoming, and I knew that this was a type of position where we're all a family. And that's certainly what my experience has been.
Okay. Where did you go to school?
I went to school at JFK, that's my master's degree, and then my bachelor's degree at University of California.
Okay. Well, great qualifications, and even
Absolutely.
more so the passion is there. So a great hire, and again, well done. Um, Bob, tell us about your background in addition to the awesome volunteer role that you have. What was the path before you emerged into this?
I grew up on a dairy farm, and one of the
Which area?
about 100 miles north of here in the town of Ascove, Minnesota.
Okay.
And
100 miles north?
Yes.
Yes.
On the
okay.
way to Duluth.
Yes.
And one of the regrets was that I chose not to continue taking my dad's farm. At that time, I recognized that farming was on the decline in that area. Today, I don't think there's any farms left, and I saw that trend. So when I retired, I then went on to become an engineer, mechanical engineer. But when I retired from engineering about 10 years ago, this was an opportunity to get back to my farm roots. And Bill and I have so many similar experiences in terms of the size of the farm and the era that we went through. So it's kind of reliving my farming days.
Yeah.
Not the bad things of hauling out manure and so on, but the fun things of being on a farm. So
What a couple of the real fun things that jump right out?
driving a tractor.
Okay.
Yes, we have a tractor and a wagon for hay rides, which people love to go through the prairie. And to see the kids coming out and just enjoy running around.
And that's what you like so much, is seeing the smile on their face,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it brings memories for you. So
And showing people how to milk a cow without having to do 20 cows. You only have to do part of a cow.
okay.
So
Nicole, you know how to milk a cow, I bet.
I do actually.
Okay, I don't. I have. I guess I have actually done it, but I
Well, we
probably
can teach
need
you.
a refresher. I'll do that this summer. So, okay. Any other things that you'd like to share on that?
Well, the other thing is when I grew up on my dad's farm, I remember when I was probably a young child going into the woods next door and finding this trail through the woods and asking him, "What's that trail about?" And he said, "Well, that was the old government road that ran from St. Paul up to Duluth." And through my career, I've always been close to it. When I moved to Stillwater, I was just a few miles from that stagecoach route. When I retired, I told a friend of mine, I finally got away from there. He said, "No, you don't. You live right next to that trail that used to go from St. Paul up to Duluth." And I said, "Well, something telling me that I've got to learn about the history of early roads, the stagecoach route
Yes.
that went through Maplewood." And I asked him, "Where are the records?" Well, many of the early road records are with the township, were with the township, and all those records are the Historical Society. So that's another reason that I got involved with the Historical Society, is finding the records for the early township roads. So there's several things that draw me to working for the society.
Wonderful.
So
And again, you have acknowledged the importance of the volunteers, and there's opportunities if someone would like to get further involved. And Nicole or anyone would like to just comment on the types of volunteer efforts that might be needed.
We actually just hired a volunteer coordinator. This is a volunteer position as well, and her name is Heidi. So Heidi will work with the volunteers to find the right fit. There are lots of opportunities here on the farm. One of the events this summer is live theater. We're bringing in the Looney Lutherans from the church.
The Looney Lutherans.
The Looney Lutherans.
Okay, you said it, but no,
Yes.
that's good. Okay.
From the church basement ladies. They're the same actors. So there's going to be a need there for ushers. We're doing food service, so we're doing a hot dish type of dinner. So there's food service needs as well. And there's going to be ticket takers. There's lots of different positions available for our events.
I'd like to nominate Leon Lilly to